Joe, what are your initial thoughts and impressions of the Jets defense?
Yeah, well, listen, I've been with a handful of these guys, and have a lot of respect for the way they play the game, and I know it's probably tough there right now, but I know it's a group that'll come ready to play. So
finally feel like a normal week for you as opposed to playing catch up and hitting the ground running.
Yeah, for sure. It was nice to have a little, to be able to breathe a little bit this weekend, and it feels like we were just out on the practice field, and it feels like I've barely been there. So yeah, it's good to kind of get back in the normal rhythm of a Monday, Tuesday, and now actually going out there on the practice field on Wednesday, feeling prepared.
For the normal week, do you feel like you're operating the way you want to? You're not going to get a full training camp, but how do you feel like you're out there?
Yes, I mean, so far, still learning and trying to pick up everything, and just play as fast and as smooth as I can, and using just same. I'm going to try to keep my process the same, and use these walkthroughs and the practices to get used to calling it and seeing it, and just try to keep it at a basic level and keep going from there.
So much focus, Joe, on you getting accustomed to your weapons, running backs, obviously the wide receivers. What about the offensive line? What's that, getting used to them, playing in front of them been like?
Well, it's been great. I mean, I think you can tell that those guys are a hard-working group, and I think the biggest thing is for those guys to get comfortable with each other. And now, the way you get good at playing with each other is just trust, trust between everybody, trust that they're going to do their job. They have to trust that I'm going to do my job and get the ball out, and maybe know when we're getting the ball out in a quick game, know when we're maybe dropping a little bit deeper. I think as long as everybody can do that and trust each other to do their job and not try to get cute and make up for something here and make up for something there, then we'll grow together and be happy with it.
How do you guys avoid the obligatory letdown game that comes after a mini bye, facing a winless team? How do you guys keep the momentum going on offense from what you had in Pittsburgh?
And just go out and take every day by itself, prepare Wednesday like you always do, Thursday like you always do, Friday, and then ultimately win the football game. A lot of that stuff is just talk, and you don't have to answer it unless you don't go out there and unless you go out there and don't play well. So it's simple. You can't worry about what the result is at any point, but definitely not on Wednesday. You just got to go out there and prepare, and then on Sunday, same thing. You got to go play each play, and just keep getting up and doing the same thing over and over again, and having the best play that you can possibly have in that moment. The results come when you're able to be in the moment and focus on the task at hand. So,
speaking of your offensive line, have you had a chance to kind of regroup with Orlando and just to kind of shake your heads and say, well, here we are again? I don't know if you've been able to have that moment yet or not.
A little bit, yeah, because he's very willing to come up to me and talk about certain things like that, and just kind of ask me how it's been going in Cincinnati, and so I think he's probably driven that conversation, but we've been able to talk a little bit about it.
You mentioned the running game has struggled for the most part this year before you got here. Suddenly it started to click a little bit. Do you think what you've done in the pass game has opened up the run game, or did the run game help open up some things for you Thursday night in the pass game?
It's tough to say. It's one game. I do think the run game early on, and I think initially the run game did spark us, that 30-yard run we had, and that was our first scoring drive, I believe. And then the next one we came out and had another little chunk run. Anytime that you can get some of those gains in the running game, it's going to help your offense out a lot. So I think in Thursday's case, the run game definitely helped us out. But we just got to, like I said, we got to just continue to work at it and have faith that, we're getting better. And, one game doesn't necessarily indicate what the next is going to be. And just like I said before about, the process of it all, I don't think we can really worry about that. I think we just got to continue to work on getting better and trust that we're doing the right things, and then on Sundays it'll show up.
You mentioned the word. What's the biggest way a quarterback can help a run game? It might be counterintuitive to think of it that way, but are there ways beyond you obviously talking and running again? What are the biggest ways quarterbacks can help keep a running game efficient?
Well, complete passes when you get the opportunity to do it. Stay ahead of the stakes, of the sticks, first and second down, especially first down. When you have easy completions and you can keep yourself ahead of the sticks, then it gives you the chance to be multiple and not, be kind of forced into being one-dimensional because you weren't able to do what you were supposed to do on early downs. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Other than that, maybe I would say just the operation of it all, getting to the line of scrimmage, snapping the ball, having good rhythm with that.
What do you remember about your
growth when you were talking about the chemistry of yourself and the offensive line? Is there also a thought that it's looked so good the last 6 quarters in the passing game, you and your chemistry with the receivers? Is there a thought that it could be even better in November, even better in December? Can that growth continue with your weapons and yourself and your chemistry?
I think you're always, as a team, I think you're always hoping that you're growing as the season goes on, and I think that shows up in different ways. It doesn't mean you're going to go out there and throw for 350 yards and do all that every week, but I think as the year goes on, good teams find a way to get better and better, even though they're doing some things well at the moment. So I would hope that we can continue to make some strides in all areas.
What do you remember about your stints with the Jets over the years?
Relationships with players, kind of like you always do. You remember back, being on the field in the huddle with certain guys and being in the locker room with certain guys, and there was, you remember the good and the bad. I mean, I remember driving home on the turnpike and after losing a game and shaking my head and talking to my family like, what the hell am I doing? This is not fun. But man, I think most of the time when I look back at those times, it's being in the locker room with the Williams brothers and and everybody else that I kind of got to play with in that organization. I don't know if I necessarily enjoyed how everything went on the field there, but I'm super grateful for my time there, and it's just one of those times in my career that you had to fight through some things and kind of get to the next step. But a lot of great guys on that team and a lot of great memories with them.
You and Teron have both kind of transitioned to like a different stage of your career from being, long-term starters. What's kind of the toughest part about making that transition and kind of being a guy that teams really want to call on when they need a quarterback?
Well, when you're out there and you're playing while the bullets are flying, you get used to it, and you don't want it any other way. So when you're in a position where that's not necessarily the case every week, it can be hard. I think the hardest part of it is just finding your routine to keep yourself in the right state of mind, because it can. I know the grind of being a starter, and I don't want to downplay that. But when you want to be the guy and you're not the guy, and you can lose confidence, and a lot of bad things can happen in your mind. And it's trying to find ways to not allow that to happen, and it's not very easy when you're not playing.
You started.
What stood out about Sauce? I mean, I know you weren't there his rookie year, but what did you get to know about Sauce, and what stands out about him?
Yeah, we were just talking on the way in. Like, first of all, I thought he was a great kid, and I think when you draft guys that have good character and they're good football players, then you got a good chance. But he's big. He can run. He can use his length. He's confident. So
I don't know if you realized when you were dropped into this situation just kind of how much the team needed a jolt to get the season going again. Now that you've had some success, can you kind of feel a different energy about the group? Can you kind of feel that you're part of what's making this difference?
it's tough because I've only been here for a couple of weeks, and I feel like there has been some energy. And it's only been 2 weeks, so like I think anytime you're on a team, you look for that positive energy and you like to feel it. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I just want to, kind of refocus and take it day by day, and hopefully that builds and builds and builds. But just want to kind of focus on doing our job and taking it a day at a time.
before you were a Bengal, you obviously knew Jamar and T, but kind of looking at the rest of it, is there a guy or a system or the coaches or things that have really just caught your eye that maybe you just weren't as aware of before you were in the building here?
I think anytime you get to see behind the scenes a little bit, it's probably different than you thought from afar. I mean, even with those two guys, I think sometimes you could probably get tricked into thinking like they're just catching go balls and throwing it up and doing random stuff, but they do a lot, and I think that our coaching staff does find creative ways. I mean, just a couple weeks that I've been here, I've seen some new routes and stuff that I don't know if I've ever done before. And maybe it's not like earth-shattering, but it is kind of unique and interesting way to get some guys the football. So,
What's impressed you the most about Jamar on and off the field?
the first thing that jumped out at me about both of them, honestly, was just their hands. I know it sounds simple, but the way they catch the ball, the way they attack the ball when it's in the air, and then catch the ball with their hands, it's very, very impressive. When you put the ball out there, you have confidence that they're going to go get it and beat whoever's around them to it.
You obviously play with other great players, and I'm not asking you to rank them, but who else stands out like that, hands-wise, that you've played with?
Anquan Bolden, hands-wise, when he had people on him and you could throw the ball around him and knew that he was going to go fight for the football and be able to catch it with his hands.
You mentioned Orlando being one of the guys that kind of come up to you. Are there other guys you had more conversations with than others around the locker room?
Well, I think you're in the room with the quarterbacks all the time, and I've played with Dalton before, so I've had conversations with him. Ted's very willing to have conversations, so Ted's been great. I think honestly, in my experience, it's great to have guys like that are not shy at all about coming up to you and introducing you to the team and kind of taking you under their wing a little bit, because it does kind of help you make relationships with everybody else. They say, hey, come sit with us. Here's where the O-line sits. Hey, come, let's go do this. This is what we do during this time. And I know I've been around a lot, but those kind of things always help.
I think Zach said you had 5 live reps with Jamar or something like that in practice. Did you guys run, I guess, the one route, the speed out? I mean, it looks like you've been throwing for 18 years. I mean, how does that look as natural as it does when you guys have barely, literally know each other?
I've thrown lots of outs, and he's caught lots of them,
but not together.
Like I said, I think one of the first things I said when you guys kind of asked me about that was, listen, they're the two. He and T are two of the best at what they do. If you can't find a way to put the ball somewhere around them, then and complete it, then we're in trouble. So I'll keep it there. It's the truth. I mean, when you get guys that are good, it's easy to read their body language, so you know when they're coming out of their breaks. So you can really trust your footwork and know that it's going to time up with his, and that's what it is.
You talk about them and their skill set and how different they are. Was there a moment for you where you had a realization whoa, these guys are a little different?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've said it a million times. The Green Bay game, just the way they used their hands on some of those out routes. I think a couple times I threw Jamar an out route and he just stuck to his hands. I mean, even this game, they said he bobbled the one. He was just switching it from hand to hand. He caught that ball and then decided to put it in his other hand almost. And then the next thing I would say is T took that slant this past week and then went untouched. I mean, but he also just caught it with his hands and ran right through it. It wasn't even an afterthought. It was just seamless. And I think, that's an underrated thing.
What have your conversations been like with Joe Burrow?
Yeah, well, Joe's been around mostly either he's sat in a couple little meetings, or it's been right in our little locker room area, kind of hanging out. And so there's been times where it's been hey, just so you know, here's how maybe I would have said, here's how maybe I would do that, just in case you're in that situation. These guys are familiar with this type of communication. And then other than that, it's just been kind of shooting the breeze and just kind of catching up a little bit and getting to know each other a little bit.
Because you're both named Joe, Which Joe? Like, has that ever been a thing?
No, I'm actually used to being around like a lot of Joes in my family and just growing up. So I think I have a knack for just understanding when I'm the one that somebody's talking to and when I'm not. So
How nice has it been to have him around as a sounding board as you try to learn it?
yeah, great. No, great. I think it's just great to have him in the building and have his presence and yeah, for sure. I also think to add Jake to that, like those guys are comfortable together, so like they're able to open up a little bit more when they're together and around me, as opposed to being maybe one-on-one. I think it helps to have that third guy in there to help everybody be a little bit more comfortable.
This is obviously a very unique situation where you have to leave your home and come here the way you did. How are you navigating being a dad?
Well,
this is happening.
The good thing, I guess you could say, is that I was in Cleveland by myself. My family was in New Jersey. We decided to do that this year because last year we decided to do it the other way, and this year we just said, hey, let's keep the kids in their routine and see how that goes. And there's been challenges with that. I love being there and around them and doing all those things. But at the same time, like they get in their routine and they're having a lot of fun back at home. And early on in the season, they came out to Cleveland and they're going to come out to this week's game. And I think there's always a challenge of sitting in a room by yourself and being lonely. So for me, it's trying to find ways to maybe stay over here a little bit longer and then, just kind of take myself out of that mindset, call home, go sit at a restaurant by myself and realize that, man, that's pretty enjoyable to do. After there's not too many situations. I tell people all the time. I mean, I used to see guys sitting at a bar by themselves, or just sitting by themselves eating and grabbing a little meal, and I'm like, man, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, you almost want to go join him. And now I realize, like, that dude was in heaven. And not to say that's obviously not what I want. I'd rather be at home sitting at the dinner table with my kids and hearing what the hell they were talking about all day. But if you have to do it, then you might as well take advantage of it. So just little things like that.
Are Cincinnatians starting to see you at restaurants and take pictures and say hello?
I guess so, maybe a little bit. I try to get there early. I'll go eat the 4:30 dinner and beat everybody out of work and out of the house. So.
Is there anything about Burrow that kind of surprised you? He's kind of this larger-than-life figure, I guess, and then you get to see him every day. Is there anything that's kind of maybe struck you about him that you...
I don't know. I don't think I look at it that way. You always look at him as a fellow competitor, and now you look at him as a teammate. And it's not like I know him well enough or have been around him long enough to notice anything like that. Just still trying to get to know each other.
You mentioned you're still trying to learn the offense. What's the difference between trying to learn it in season versus training camp?
There's probably positives and negatives to both. I mean, I think the one thing about trying to learn things in season is you can wrap your head around the game plan. If they were to try to feed me the whole entire offense right now and learn it all at once, like throw everything at me, I think I'd be overwhelmed. So you're always learning it in pieces, like install 1, install 2, install 3. But when you don't get a chance to do it like that incrementally, if they were just to throw everything at once, I'd probably be overwhelmed. So now it's almost like each week is a new install, and eventually you kind of get little pieces. Eventually, because you have the basics down, then you can kind of get the little pieces, as a little bit easier. And I think that's kind of where I'm starting to get, is getting pretty locked in on some of the basics. They're starting to become kind of like feel natural. So now it's the little things like getting to the ball and running a play quick, and how do you call that, and I'm actually to the point now where I can probably remember like how to do those things, as opposed to when I first got here, if you were to give me some on the ball play and you were just giving me a number or whatever we were going to, or a single name, I probably would have struggled to remember exactly what that was or recall it quick enough to do it. So I think the advantage of this is learn a game plan, forget about the rest. The advantage of being able to go in training camp is you get to take it way more incrementally and learn the whole thing. And now you can kind of just install things on the fly, and I would know what you're talking about, and it wouldn't need that much kind of meeting time or anything like that.